Daryl, would you like to do the introductions as I'm getting the live stream set up and introduce some of the board members as we get started?
Certainly. So Jason is co-chair. I'm also co-chair. We have Rebecca. I don't see my whole list. Is Rebecca Huber online with us from Gilmer Park?
Yes, I'm here with my husband, William Huff.
Welcome, welcome to both of you. Brad Shoup from West Emerson, Jeff Larson from East Emerson, Christina Robb west of East, Andrew Stone, who is our rep for East Liberty, Nancy Phillip, who's our business liaison for 9th and 9th Business, Ann Weaver, who is our treasurer. I don't believe Jen Blum is with us. Darren Mono, our council member, said he was going to be busy this evening. And I believe Tim Cosgrove, the mayor's liaison, is with us. And Detective King, our CIUD police officer, I believe, is with us as well. Did I miss anyone,
they would
Jason?
normally be with us, Daryl, but they called me today and both are unable to attend, but I do have some reports that I can make from there. So that would be Tim Cosgrove from the mayor's office and Detective King. Normally they are part of our meetings. Cool. All right. I think we are about ready to go live on Facebook. So let's see if this will work.
Jason?
Yes.
Sam from the Salt Lake City School Board also said that he would try to join late if possible after some SEC meetings.
Sounds great. That's Sam Hansen, the Precinct 5 member. That's fantastic. Thanks for letting us know. Mm-hmm. All right, we are live on Facebook. There's a couple people waiting in the waiting room, and I think we can go ahead and begin the meeting. Thank you all for joining us. As Daryl mentioned, this is the community meeting of ELPCO. In other times, we met at the Tracy Aviary in the education room they had there. It seems like a long time ago since we've been there, but that was our roost for ELPCO for many years, and we've been meeting online since about March, and so we thank you all for joining. We do have an agenda that you can check out in the chat, which you can access by clicking on the little chat button at the bottom of the page. And also, we are asking folks to, in the presentations, to submit their questions through the chat. If you have questions for the participants, Daryl is going to be monitoring the chat and be able to field those questions. Just type them for everyone, and that way we can all see your questions, and then Daryl will be giving those to the participants who are presenting. We have a couple of presentations today. That just tends to work more efficiently. If you do have a burning question that you just want to interject and ask, you can unmute yourself and ask. But try to keep that to a minimum. It works a little easier when people write those in the chat. And so just so you can all see, I will write ELPCO in the chat, and you can see that show up there on the right. That is where the chat will take place. Okay. Are there any announcements or any further information before we begin our agenda? No? Okay. Well, let's go in. We actually, we lost a couple of our, I guess we call them our typical presenters in terms of Detective King and Tim Cosgrove. So we will actually move right to the sort of new and interesting parts of the meeting, the ones that change every month. But I will mention Detective King and I talked a little bit earlier today. He's the Community Intelligence Officer for District 5, which is the council district that ELPCO's in. He works for the Salt Lake City Police Department. And he said that he is aware of some of the concerns that community members, especially those around Liberty Park, have about some of the rising trends in property crime that have been going on in District 5. You can look at the CompStat data and see that happen. And he's been working pretty closely with, especially the Liberty Wells Community Council and the Ballpark Community Council, and with the mayor's office. He and actually Tim Cosgrove wanted me to let me know that they are hearing us, they are aware, and I think there's going to be some movement on that. ELPCO, from my understanding, has not received the same amount of property crime issues that some of our neighbors to the west have. But I want to check that. Does anybody on this call have any anecdotes, personal experience, or any trends that they've been noticing regarding crime? And you can actually unmute yourself to talk about this. It's a little bit more of a freewheeling discussion. Does anybody want to bring up that issue? Basically, property crime is up 60% I'm sorry, violent crime is up 60% in District 5 this year, and property crime is up, I think, 20 and 30% compared to 2019. So those are some significant trends that we've been watching. But those are statistics. I'm interested to know what people are seeing and feeling as well. Christina.
Just in our small little neck of the woods up here, we've had four or five separate incidences of car prowls this last week.
And that would be in the West of East neighborhood near East High School.
Right. So it's just, really just a block neighbor area. But they didn't all happen on the same night. They were just kind of dispersed all over. So not a trend that we can really, point to any one specific thing.
Got it. And a lot of times that happens when people leave their car doors open, accidentally usually. So that's always just a good reminder to keep your doors locked. The doors that are open are the crime of opportunity that happens. Mm-hmm. Other comments, especially, just what people have heard and noticed in the neighborhood? Any of the neighborhood reps have any feedback that they've received on these issues? Nothing? Okay. Anything in the chat? Let me check here. I also found that the parking enforcement will resume November 1st for parked RVs. That's from Nathan Florence. So that's right. The city's parking ordinance on long-term parking is, like where you have an RV parked on the street, that is going to start again on November 1st. Just something to keep in mind if you've been taking advantage of that little holiday throughout the summer. I know a lot of people have, actually. So any other comments on that? I will say that we'll be watching this issue pretty carefully, just because ELPCO isn't as affected as some of our neighbors. That seems to be sort of a fortunate accident of geography or luck. It doesn't mean that it couldn't happen to us in the future. And so that's why we're all in this together and working with the other community councils on this topic, because it's not like 7th East is, a giant Berlin Wall of a barrier between neighborhoods. Cool. All right. So that would be the kind of crime discussion. Next, I'm wondering if Phil Winston is with us. Phil, if you are here, could you say hello?
Hello.
Hey, Phil.
How's everybody?
Phil, do you mind introducing yourself? And will you be wanting to present any, share a screen or any presentations while you're doing this?
Yeah, I would like to share some screens once I get into this, if that's okay.
That's great. Yep, you should be able to do that.
Okay. First off, thank you so much to all the members of the Community Council for your tireless volunteer hours. And I know that it goes unrewarded, but we appreciate you. Second, I'm still waiting for Daryl to send me my gold or silver medallion for being a frequent flyer on this program. And I would like to be able to say that I am when these presentations come about. I have two projects that I'd like to present to the Community Council. Both projects are in the development stage, and so the pictures and the items that I'm going to share with you are strictly in the development stage, and we are working our way toward achieving both projects. And so I'm going to attempt to share my screen. I'm not a computer guy, so hopefully this works. Let's see here. Let's go here. Let's do this. Okay, so the first project that I'm going to talk about is at 810 East and 800 South. Currently at 810 East and 800 South, there's a vacant lot. The lot has been vacant for as long as I remember. I talked to Joel Patterson. He believes it's greater than 20 years it's been vacant, and it sits next to the corner, which used to be Emily Jane, but it is now this. And we think that Krista Murray and Mary Warner have done an incredible job with some of the recent add-ons to the neighborhood and the upgrades to them. So the new glass shop there looks amazing, but we would be just east of the glass shop. Currently, the piece of land that is there is zoned R2. It was part of a master zone, even though it wasn't intended for this outside parcel. The outside parcel was owned and purchased about 12 years ago, And the gentleman who had it was Jared Cook, and he sold it to us. And I'm an open book, so just so everybody knows, we paid about $410,000 for it, with the idea that we could possibly get a rezone there to put some more small neighborhood commercial retail spaces there. We have spoken to several of the neighbors, and the neighbors are kind of against the restaurant or a bar. They really want to see more local crafts and local art and things like that to go in these spaces, and obviously not national accounts. And so our intent is to get rezoned to CB with a development agreement, agreeing that we would not put a restaurant or a bar in that location. I have a couple of photos. Hopefully it will let me move my screen. Did you see my screen move? So, very good. So we just picked some pictures off of Pinterest with ideas about the massing and how it would look. And we like the glass, and we love the green effect that some of these have had, and we want to incorporate the green effect. And here is kind of a basic, this is a model done in a program that is not what it's close to what it will look like, but not what it will fully look like. And you can see that there's 3 small storefronts here, with even possibly a storefront in the back, as the parking would follow along the west side of the building. And it would be 2 stories like this, and the top side would be 3 condo units. They're rather small because the building is rather small, because the property is rather small, but that's the general idea. And the rezone would request the CB zone, so we would allow to put these this commercial project on the property. So do we want to stop there and open up for comment, or how do you want to handle this, Jason?
Folks can type in comments or questions in the chat function while you're talking, but if there are any questions right now, we could take a pause and people could unmute and ask them if they would like.
Very good.
I have actually one quick question, Phil. The image we're looking at right now, are we standing on 8th East looking at that, or are we standing on 8th South?
We are standing on 8th South, and
okay.
That is, if to your left, you can kind of see part of it. It's the Smith's grocery store.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. So we're looking south with the gas station and the Smith's on the left side.
Absolutely.
Great. I don't see any questions in the chat. So Phil,
okay.
If you want to keep on going, we'll see if any come up.
Project 2 is a project in 9th and 9th. Next to Spa Day in 9th and 9th on the corner is a small yellow bungalow. It's been there for a long time. We recently acquired this property, and we have, as a company, built a majority of the newer buildings on the block face. Not all of them, obviously, but a lot of them. And the one thing that keeps coming up over and over again is that people cannot afford to move into these units or these spaces in 9th and 9th because the sheer cost is so high. The average lease in 9th and 9th right now is somewhere in the neighborhood of $2,500 to $3,500 for smaller spaces, and it's just become unaffordable. And so we purchased the building with the idea that we would take the building down. And I know that hurts some people's feelings, but that we would take the building down, and this is the overview, and it's the part in red. And in exchange, we would add several small retail spaces to allow small vendors to come into the area and have a space that they could lease that was reasonable in price, and that they would pay one price for that space, and that there wouldn't be, cams and everything else there. There would be an all-in price, and those prices would range from $1,300 on the low side all the way up to around $2,500 on the high side. And we thought that it would add 6 new local businesses to the neighborhood, which we feel like is a great addition to the neighborhood based on need, because we own other buildings and people are always asking, is there any place I could find a smaller space, or could I share a space? And so in addition to that, we would add 3 condos to the top of this building. It's also a 2-story building that would be up above for living space, and that they would have great views and be right on 9th and 9th and sitting on the corner. And then we have a rendering. It's not complete, and this is kind of just the start of it, but you'll notice a big thing that stands out is that there is a huge amount, and it's not white brick, this is just modeled plain for right now. There's a huge amount of open space on the wall there, on the west side of the building and on the south side of the building, and that is left there empty for a reason. We're right now working with several artists in Salt Lake. We plan to do an interactive art piece on the wall that people can come to and get their picture taken with, and they can come and see things, and it will have some ties into Harvey Milk, and it will have some ties into Unity, and some ties into just being part of 9th and 9th. And the art piece we're working on is not something that the city's asked us to do. It's just something that I've been in the neighborhood a long time, and I've built a lot of buildings, and I really would like to give back to the community and find a way to do that. So we've budgeted a lot of money, over $100,000, to create something that the neighborhood can really use and see. And we think that 9th and 9th is already an incredible neighborhood, and we think that that people already want to come to 9th and 9th because of all the great businesses and restaurants, and we want people who fly into town to say, I want to go to 9th and 9th because it's cool and because I could shop local, and these are all local small businesses. And so we're really excited about this project. And obviously, please don't take the rendering as the final. The company is still working on it and has done a phenomenal job designing it, but there's a lot more design elements to go into it. So that's it. Those are my 2 projects, one at 951 East and one at 810 East. And we've done several others. We did Vessel Kitchen, which was Great Harvest Bread, and Spa Trouvé, and the Lieberman Law Building, and Tsunami. We've done several buildings along the block. So that's my whole presentation, guys.
I think we do have some questions that are coming in, Phil.
Okay.
Anne asked, would this include retail parking? And I'm wondering, Anne, were you referring to the 800 South project or the 900 South project, or maybe both? Could you answer that question for both, Phil?
We are adding parking spaces for the building that aren't currently there. As on the 951 East, we'll be adding several spaces. We will comply with Salt Lake City code and code requirements, and we are adding spaces there. And then also 810 will have parking in the rear, also used for retail as well. So yes, we are adding more spaces. It's probably not the numbers that people would like to hear, but it is added parking.
Got it. And what would be the square footage for the parcels or the little shops again at 951 East, 900 South? You mentioned they're going to be kind of small.
The low side of 374 square feet, and on the high side, almost 600.
Okay. How does that compare to a typical 9th to 9th shop? Is that on the small side?
It doesn't compare to typical 9th and 9th shops, only because they're all built very large. Like, for example, Vessel Kitchen is in 25 or 3,500 square feet, and their neighbor is in 1,700 square feet. It's just that when a developer or a builder is building something, they like to deal with less tenants, and I think that less tenants hurts 9th and 9th area. We only have so much square footage, and we would like to see a lot of smaller tenants. And so these are smaller than normal, Jason. But if you look at your house and look at an area, 600 square feet is a lot of us. It's an entire floor of our house. So it is a fair amount of space to open a business. It is not probably a manufacturing location, or these probably won't be any type of full service restaurant, but they're able to get in. One of the great treasures of 9th and 9th is the smoothie shop that's there, and the smoothie shop is probably in about maybe 300 square feet, or even less. And so, to give you an idea, these will be greater than that.
So maybe comparable to the Maven district, the Maven buildings a little bit further down 9th South?
Yeah, that would be, well, even some of the Mavens are even a little bit bigger, but yeah, that's the idea, is to get more shops, to drive more people to the neighborhood to partake in these businesses.
And I think it would be probably comparable. There's a small dress shop across the street to the south from 951 in the Jenkins, I think, plumbing building, isn't it?
Yeah, ours are even a lot bigger than that. Has anybody been in Coup de Coeur in the Maven building that Jason was talking about?
Yes.
Coup de Coeur has about 450 square feet, right around there, maybe 500. So it's kind of in the same vein as those.
And Garden Gate, just a little bit to the west on the south block face, is also a small business that would compare.
That's right. Their storefront. You're definitely right about that, Darren.
How about the condos upstairs, the 3 condos? What are the square footages on those?
The condos upstairs, they range from 800 square feet to, I believe, 1,100 square feet. There's 3 of them. The 2 are larger and the one in the middle is smaller.
And then, sorry to jump context, but back on 810 East, 8 South, will that be somewhat similar with retail below and office, or condo above?
No, condos above also, and those condos are much smaller. That building is a little bit smaller based on our footprint there, but those condos, I think, if I'm not mistaken, were around 600, kind of high end of 600 square feet to a maximum of 800 square feet.
Thank you.
You know, this all looks very good and we appreciate it, Phil. I just have one quibble, and that is that moon above that 951 East, 900 South looks like it belongs over Tatooine instead of Earth. So,
you know, our renderers, they have wild imaginations, you know, so who knows what they're putting in here. I agree with you, Jason.
it looks beautiful, but a little extraterrestrial.
Yeah, and you know, the one thing I do want to highlight is the art installment on the building that you're looking at. I believe that the art installment on this building will be epic and will be interactive, and people travel to Nashville to take a picture between 2 painted wings on the wall, and it's the #1 Instagram site in the state of Tennessee, and I believe we're going to do something greater than that.
And that artwork will be facing west, is that right? It'll be facing
west and south, so that our installation will wrap around the building a little bit.
Got it. Okay, facing 9th South. Nice.
Yes.
Any other questions for Phil? I want to mention that Nathan Lawrence mentioned that he's been really happy with the collaboration and support that you've given the residents in that neighborhood.
The Florences and their neighbors, I wish every neighborhood was like that. They're involved and they care, and it matters. And I've always tried to have these conversations in advance, and I hope that people know that I'm available to contact either today or on another platform. And if you want to share your opinions, we've never come to the community council with a hard, fast idea that we weren't willing to change. So while there is some economics in play, we're open to listen.
Great, thank you, Phil. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Sure. Who is this? If you could.
This is Mike Alosi.
Great, thank you, Michael.
So I think this is a really cool idea. I like the small shops. I've seen that a lot of big shops are vacant, but small ones, there's not a place. Is with all those small shops and with the cool art, is there going to be any kind of like outdoor space?
The great thing about these buildings on 9th and 9th is they have very large park strips, and in addition to that, the actual property line is not the property line. So on the west side, there's about 4.5 or 5 feet. And on the north side, there's about the same before it hits the property line. And we will have benches out there and again, more green space. We're not completed on these designs. And so there will be places for people to hang out and look at what they purchased or get an ice cream from down the street and sit down for a while.
The only other thing I would say is like the look of it is very modern and new. So, I mean, I hate to see like a neighborhood lose its character of like how things look, like kind of the Victorian bungalow kind of thingy.
So I can appreciate that comment. You know, I think we're starting to get known as the brick builders. This picture, I don't know if you heard me in advance, but this is done in white. We're not necessarily going to do it in white. And the impact of this building will be the art, the piece of art that's placed on it. And I think that you'll be pleasantly surprised. This building will not look new or newer. It will be in place and it will be an addition to the neighborhood. And we really, I mean, we put a lot of effort into it. A lot of our buildings, if you know our buildings from around town, the Vessel Kitchen building, we use the old world brick, and we love that about the neighborhood, and we intend to follow that trend. A lot of the detailing stuff on this, like the wall lighting and the numbers for the buildings and the suites, and then the advertising that would go above each, are not depicted here. This is we're very early on because we want to hear opinions like yours. So I appreciate that, Michael.
Gotcha. Any other questions for Phil before we actually move on to another 9th South discussion and project? No more? Okay. Well, thank you, Phil, for taking the time and giving this kind of double preview. I believe one of your projects is already, we've received the documents for the 831, the 800 South one. So we've got that. We'll look forward to seeing the documents for the second one, and we'll be sharing those with our community so people can take a closer look. But thank you for being here.
Hey, Jason, real quick. The second one doesn't require any planning commission or community council. So this is my attempt to do that, but I am open for questions. And if you'd like to have me back, I'm willing to speak again. But it's within the zoning requirements. It's within all the, we're not asking for any special requests. So we go straight to building permit, but I still wanted you guys to see it.
If you don't mind sharing that, the images, you know, especially if you want to add a little bit more to them, whenever you feel comfortable doing that, we'd be glad to help put those out on our newsletter, on our social media, so people can get a look.
I would love to add them as things move along.
Sounds good.
Thank you so much.
Okay. As I mentioned, we'll be moving on to another aspect of 900 South, and that is the phase 2 of the 900 South reconstruction. Phase 1 was actually right in the heart of ELPCO. It was the reconstruction of 9th South from 13th East all the way to Lincoln Street, I think, that also included not only some new bikeways and walking sidewalks and bulb outs and crosswalks, but also the roundabout, which most of us either probably see or walk through or drive through every day, especially if you live on the northern side of ELPCO. But we have a couple folks to talk to us about the continuation of that project. And Tom, is it you or is it Josh? Are you gonna, Josh Willie, are you gonna lead this?
I think it'll be kind of a group effort.
Great. Okay. Well,
that's okay.
Take it away. Maybe just give a little brief introduction about this as well, especially anything that I missed in mine.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. Thanks for having us back. We know that it's been a little while since we've talked to you about 900 South, but and hopefully the post-traumatic stress disorder has worn off from the construction last year. We know that it's hard for a community to go through construction, regardless of what the design changes are, and we appreciate everybody's help in making that project as good as it could be. Like Jason said, this is going to be phase 2. Basically, let me give you a little gist of the project. It's going to be continuing the same basic design with one lane in each direction as the 9th and 9th intersection already has. The trail on the south side and improved crosswalks and bus stops. It's going to be extending it from Lincoln Street, which is 945 East, all the way down to 900 West. So it'll be about a 3-mile project, whereas the project that we completed last year was only from Lincoln up to 1300 East. So that was about 3/4 of a mile. We are right now just sort of kicking off the project. So this is definitely not the last time that you'll hear from us, but just the first time. And I want to tell you a little bit more about what's gone into it and what we're planning on doing so that you can stay involved. I've also included some information on how to get a hold of us. The emails and the email address and the website and the phone number goes to anybody on the project team, so you can get a hold of us whenever you need to share any of your ideas or to let us know what you think. I'm going to share my...
Tom, you put that in the chat, is that right?
Yes, yeah, the website, the email address, and the phone number are in the chat. Yep. And if anybody has questions as we go along, please put those in the chat. Jason and Jean from our consultant team are here, and they'll be helping out as well in this presentation, as well as throughout the whole project. And then Josh Willey is here from our engineering division when it comes to the construction timeline and impacts, and we'd love to talk to you about that too. So I'll share my screen real quick, and then we'll get started. So you'll see this branding for the 900 South Reconstruction in all of our materials. There's some posters up at different shops. We've done some outreach already on the street, and we're visiting every community council that this project goes through, which is 8 different community councils. It's a pretty hefty lift. So we're meeting with each of the community councils a couple of times. This is the first meeting, the introduction of the concept. The next time that we come, we're going to be talking more preliminary design and design specifics, as well as some alternatives that we have for the 9th and 9th area specifically, because it is a unique part of 900 South. And then the last time that we visit you, we'll be talking about final design, preparing for construction, and making sure that all of our ducks are in a row. And then again, that information for how to contact us is there on the right. So we're going to be doing a lot more than just flyers and meetings on the street. We have a lot of different ways for people to get involved, so that we ensure that by the time the project does occur, that everybody's heard about it and has an opportunity to contribute. So these are the different ways that we are either currently or planning on engaging the public for this project. Here's an overview of a really fun map that our consultants at Lochner made, talking about what the vision is for this 9-lane trail. You guys got a small piece of it in the construction last year, just those couple of blocks between Lincoln up to the Roundabout. But the vision for the trail is an 8-mile long trail that goes from 215 all the way up to Immigration Canyon. West of I-15, the trail's already complete. And then along Sunnyside Avenue and heading up towards Immigration Canyon, the trail is almost complete. So this is one of the biggest missing pieces in the trail vision. This is building almost 3 miles of an 8-mile trail. So it's a pretty incredible addition to the network. But the street, 900 South, and the trail, the 9-line trail, will connect people to schools and businesses, to Liberty Park, Central 9th and 9th, the Granary District, the existing 9-line and the bike park on the west side, as well as the Jordan River Parkway Trail and other destinations and amenities. And that trail is going to be designed similar to what is shown in this cross section. This cross section is looking, if you were like up in a balloon or up in a 3-story building, this is looking west towards the freeway. So that trail, just like the section that was built last year, will be on the south side of the street, single lane in each direction, adding a center turn lane so that we can have some improved traffic and turns. And then for a large part, leaving the parking where it is, or replacing the same number of parking spaces, just in a slightly different location as we move that curb line to the north. In addition to adding the trail, we'll also be adding some additional crosswalks and improving the crosswalks for the trail and the sidewalk along the entire stretch of 900 South for all 18 blocks. as well as some improved bus stops for the Route 9 service that started, I guess, now 2 years ago. And we've seen an amazing growth in the use of Route 9. Between August 2018 and August 2019, even in the midst of construction, we saw ridership on Route 9 double, and then more than double after that period. So on the road, we're going to be doing, and Josh can talk a little bit about this if there are questions specific to this, but we'll be doing a partial depth reconstruction. So this is not as intense as the reconstruction that was done last year, where we dug all the way down and replaced everything in the roadway. This is just enough to get us a brand new roadway surface, brand new asphalt that will go in the road. There will be, like I said, one lane in each direction with a center turn lane, new curb and gutter where it's needed, and then new landscaping and more on-street parking available in the Central 9th area, which is between West Temple and 300 West. Underground. This is the part that I think is way, way undersold. But this is probably something that you guys will benefit from for the next couple of generations. 100 years, our public utilities department is planning. A new water line will be installed. The water line that's there right now, I believe, is over 110 years old. So it's in pretty rough shape. So a brand new water line that's big enough to accommodate any new growth that occurs along the corridor, as well as fixes to sewer mains and connections, storm drainage improvements, and then again, just in that Central 9th area, 300 West to West Temple and 800 South down to about 1,000 South, they will be putting all of the overhead power lines underground to allow for taller buildings and less impact on the community, especially the visual of the community from those overhead power lines. And here are some proposed benefits. Obviously, the trail brings a lot of benefits in adding more transportation options, but we know that the infrastructure will make people more visible, comfortable, safe. We'll be adding a lot of green space because that park strip on the south side will get wider. And in the Central 9th area, we'll be planting a lot more trees than exist right now. We're going to extend the life of the pavement up to 15 years in the future, rather than letting it deteriorate and then fixing it. And then we'll be adding some space for better and safer turning movements and slower speeds. This will help not only improve safety, but it'll improve the visibility of our businesses as people are driving slower and being more attentive on the corridor rather than just driving past all of the places that could really use our help, especially now during COVID. Like I said, the utilities will be updated to accommodate that growth and lifespan, and then the storm drainage will be improved in a way that's a little bit more natural than we do it a lot of the time. A lot of the time we just pipe the water as it comes off of the road. We're going to try as much as possible to filter and clean the water where it falls and try to recharge the groundwater rather than immediately sending it into the pipe, but then sending any excess into the pipe after. Parking. This is super important. When we did the project in 2018 and 2019, a very common theme was parking. And there was a complaint, justifiably so, that the city really didn't look at parking holistically. We just looked at parking project by project, either development by development or street by street, and we want to change that. So what we're doing is having not only this broader parking conversation for the entire 18 blocks, but we're really diving into perceptions and issues, the data on how much are these parking spaces used, when are they used, which ones are the most used, which ones are the least used, so that we can understand the needs of specifically the 9th and 9th area and the Central 9th area, which is where we have our greatest parking demand. So we're starting those now. We'll have small group meetings with businesses as well as residents where we talk about all of these things. And we not only listen, but we present the data that we've collected about what the parking usage is. It's kind of like a supply and demand analysis. So we can say, hey, there are 100 spaces and these are used this much, and these are used this much. And then what we'd like to do by the end of this parking study specific to 9th and 9th is develop some strategies, not only for the short term, but for the long term as well, so that it's not just building parking, it's using the parking that exists or that may exist in a smarter way, so that we have more people coming, more people spending money in our business districts, as well as ensuring that the people who live here and work here have predictable parking spaces. And then timeline, right now we're really just beginning and doing the planning and design and a lot of the legwork and getting the word out. Construction will begin on the central 9th section that I've mentioned a couple of times next year, as well as some water line and sewer work. And then beginning in the spring or summer of 2022, so a year and a half out, almost 2 years out, construction will begin in areas that most affect ELPCO. So this is definitely not the last opportunity to have your input heard. We're extending this timeline out so that there's plenty of time for everybody to have their input heard, to prepare, and to feel like the project is their project and something that's really going to benefit them. So over the next couple of years, and especially over the next year as we finalize design, we want to work with you, we want to hear from you, and we want to incorporate as many ideas as we can to make this project as good as possible. So I'd love to take any questions. If there are questions specific to outreach or the different activities that we're going to be doing to get the word out, Jason and Jean can help us with that. Questions about business outreach, Bill Knowles can help us with that. And then questions about timeline and preparing for construction, Josh can help with that. So with that, I'd love to answer any questions.
Hey, Tom, we have a question from Nathan Florence. Nathan, you want to ask your question?
Sure. This is actually Marion on Nathan's iPad.
Oh.
But fine.
Marion.
We've been in the neighborhood for 20 years and seen so many accidents of people, mostly people heading west on 900 South who are turning left at 700 East. And the visibility, I've actually stopped turning left there because I cannot see who's coming. And I was wondering if there was any way to work with that alignment of the lanes as you're working with the lanes.
Excellent question. And we actually just had a meeting last week with the Utah Department of Transportation who controls kind of the design and operations of that intersection to introduce the project and to come up with some ideas on how to improve all of the issues that we see. And that was one of the issues.
Okay, so it's not just my perception. The data upholds that.
and I want to understand your experience a little bit better. Is it what kind of visibility issues? Visibility of other cars? Visibility...
Yes. So if I'm driving, okay, say, and I'm trying to turn left, I cannot see if there's anybody turning left to turn left from 9th South going north coming east. Then I cannot see if I'm turning south going west. I cannot see what traffic is coming towards me because it's blocked by those left-hand turn people.
So
okay, that's really good to know. So that we
offset a little bit, and that causes a visibility problem.
Exactly, it's offset just that much.
Yeah.
That unless nobody's turning left, you cannot see.
I'm really glad that you brought that up, and that's something that we will try to solve with the design. We know that there have been modifications and kind of small changes, retrofits over the years, and sometimes things get out of alignment almost imperceptibly, but it's good to have your experience. Another thing that we'll try to do with the redesign of most of the major intersections, if not all of the intersections, is protect the people who are walking and biking on the 9-line trail who are going to be on the south side of the street as much as possible, either through design changes, through calming turning traffic, or through some type of signalization changes so that we can make that as safe and comfortable for people walking and biking with their families as possible.
Thank you. Yes, and again, we've lived here for 20 years and I've raised my kids here, and so we do a lot of walking and running over to Liberty Park, and our neighbors have a small child and they do a lot of walking and biking over there, and I do feel like I feel like it's getting better, but absolutely anything you can do to protect that would be great.
It's one of the busiest crosswalks in the entire project, and that's one that we've paid particular attention to. So we'll come back within a few months, early next year, into the spring, and present some of our design ideas and see if those help.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
Any other questions?
Can I make a comment?
Yeah, go ahead. Who is this?
George Chapman.
Hi, George.
I agree about
George.
the 7th East turning left issue. If it's dark, it's really, really dangerous for pedestrians crossing while somebody's trying to turn left going west onto 7th East going south. And especially when it's dark. So maybe the city should immediately consider a much brighter directed light down at the 7th East pedestrian crosswalk that is coming from Liberty Park. That's the most dangerous part. The people that are going in other directions aren't as, to me at least, and I walk it and cross it a lot, but when people are, they want to zoom really fast, and
Yeah.
it's really dangerous. So I've had a bunch of close calls when I've had the walk light. So please consider much brighter directed light at that section. I am concerned about the center turn lane because left-hand turns do create dangers for pedestrians and bicyclists. So I would encourage the city to consider only allowing left-hand turns at the lights.
Thank you for that, George. And there are a lot of places where you can currently turn left, maybe from a travel lane or from a center turn lane.
Yeah, we've talked about it in many.
Oh, I think you cut out there, George.
Too. Also, as you know, again, we keep talking about this. Instead of a super wide turn lane, we really, really need 15-foot wide bike lanes. Bicyclists like riding side by side. And if you want to encourage bicycling, you really need to have a wide bicycle lane to allow side-by-side bicycling. So
Yeah,
if you're going to take away a lane of...
That's one of the goals of the 9-line trail, is to have it be wide enough that it's a more of a social.
Yeah, but it's not just Tom, it's not just a trail, it's a street. You're taking 2 lanes of traffic out. Those 2 lanes of traffic would be perfect for a super wide bicycle lane. And I mean, if it's done right, if you have rumble strips separating the traffic lanes, I think you could do that. But you should consider 9th South is perfect for testing out that concept and seeing what happens when you have a super wide bicycle lane, and watch the bicyclists multiply. I mean, there's a reason why we have the 999 celebration in our area. 9th South Street encourages bicycling, and it can do a lot more if you allow it. I assume you're going to have 20 mile an hour on 9th South, or is it 30?
I believe the speed limit right now is 30, but the design changes will make it so that the design speed is around 25 miles per hour.
Okay. And the 45-degree parking, you're going to try and get rid of west of 7th East? Because that's a danger to bicyclists.
No, we won't be getting rid of any of the 45-degree angle parking or parallel parking. And I should have mentioned this when we were talking about parking, but contrasting this project to last year's project, we don't have any plans for these, major intersection changes that have vast parking impacts. We're really just talking about parking impacts if there is a parking spot currently blocking a bus stop being ADA accessible, or a crosswalk either existing or new. So as far as parking changes, we really see those being fairly minimal. And then down at the Central 9th area, we'll actually be adding some parking so that as they grow up,
yeah, they need it really bad.
9th and 9th in the future, they have enough parking and as much parking as
Okay. Thanks for the listening.
Thank you, George.
Thanks, George.
And I just want bike lanes big enough for my ox cart wagon to turn around in, Tom. So that's what I want. Christina Robb had a question. Thank you, Christina.
Hi, Tom. Actually, I don't have a question. I just wanted to thank you and your crew and everybody who made the 12th East Crosswalk across 9th South possible just this last week. It's fabulous. And I think it's really going to serve our neighborhood and the East High students as they're connecting to the new 9th Line Trail. So, just really hearts out. Thank you.
Good. You're welcome. It wasn't my doing. It going in last week, but I'll spread the word to Eric. Thank you.
Great. Can you just tell us a little bit more about, well, first I should say that the people that were working on the crosswalk were also incredibly, genuinely happy about the work they were doing, and they were great. So, thank them. But they were very happy about the material they were working with. Apparently it is something that will let the crosswalk be visible during cold weather and in snow. Do you know anything about that, or can you send us some information about it?
I'll reach out to Eric and see what type of material we used. I know that my last conversation with Eric about the crosswalk was that he was trying to find a contractor that could install the product that he was thinking of. So I'll get some more details on that.
Great, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Tom or Jason or the team here? I have one quick one, Tom, and that is the earliest we would start to see impact in ELPCO, you said, would be spring, summer 2021 with the water line and sewer. Would that look like what's going on 13th East right now? Is that going to be a similar type of tear up the street kind of diversion, or is it going to be more minimal?
I'll defer to Josh on that for more specific details.
Yeah, the construction won't be as invasive as 13th East was. The first year they'll be running through and laying the pipelines. And so that'll just be a trench wherever the pipe will be located at. And so they'll lay the pipe and then they'll backfill it back up and put some temporary asphalt down to cover the trench. When we come back to do the roadway reconstruction, it'll also be very different than what you saw last year on the 900 South section that we rebuilt last year. Like Tom said, and we did the same thing on 13th East, where it was a full depth reconstruction of the pavement, where we had to dig all the way down and rebuild it all the way back up. We're not planning on doing that on 900 South. The condition of the pavement right now doesn't warrant a full depth reconstruction. So we're doing this partial depth reconstruction, which is removing the top 3 to 5 inches of asphalt and then paving it back. And so that process is much quicker, much less invasive than a full depth reconstruction. It's still roadway construction. It's still a headache. We're going to have to be, working with traffic and property owners and everything as we're doing that construction, but it's not nearly as a full depth reconstruction project.
And thanks, Josh. I should have added that one of the benefits of these pavement improvements and changes in the roadway design is that there's going to be less pavement overall, which means in the future, less cost to maintain it in good working order. And often I think that that's an overlooked downside of our wide streets, is that we have to pay so much money to maintain them in good working order. And it's one of the reasons why our streets have suffered so much, is that we just don't have enough time or money to maintain them. So in addition to the reduced costs, we would also see less water runoff because there's less impervious surface, as well as less urban heat island effect as we have more landscaping and soft improvements on the street.
Hey, you guys, Joe the jeweler here from 9th and 9th Jewelers. Sorry, I've been listening to you guys, but I missed quite a bit of that. I was kind of overhearing it while we're doing construction, because we're putting in a bookstore behind my jewelry store, and we've been down there every night. I went through the the construction in what was it, 2003, and that was pretty major.
Yeah.
Sorry, I missed what you guys were talking about. So what's going to happen right on the corner of 9th and 9th for us locals doing business right there?
That's a really good question. Do you mean mostly in terms of design or in terms of construction impact?
Construction time, because last time they did it when 2003, I think. Man, that took like 9 months or something.
I think that we'll probably still occupy that as much of that construction season as we can, which is typically beginning in the spring and ending in the late fall. But we, as the disclaimer kind of shows here on the slide, we're going to try to reduce the construction impacts to the community and local businesses as much as possible by limiting our construction to portions of the corridor at a given time, so that we don't have all of 9th South ripped up. We'll definitely coordinate with everybody so that they're aware of when those impacts will be coming. But I think that, yeah, in spring 2022 or 2023, depending on which part of the project we're working on at that time, that we could probably expect about that same amount of time of construction.
So like the whole summer, basically.
It could be, but again, without knowing the exact details yet, I couldn't say exactly. Maybe Josh can illuminate us on that.
So the parking doesn't necessarily apply to me because I've got my own parking, but that's, I mean, can we get an update of what's going to be on the 9th, or let's see, the south side of 9th South in front of my building and Tower Theater, Coffee Garden and all that?
It's a really good question. And we're working through some of the details right now, but what I do know is that the lane, the eastbound lane, is about 18 feet wide right now, and then you have your angled parking. A lane next to angled parking only has to be 13 feet wide, so it's a little overly wide for what we might want. So basically all that's going to happen is when we do that partial depth reconstruction, we'll just take where the curb is right now and we'll just scooch it about 5 feet to the north. So your parking is still going to remain. It's just going to be moved a little bit to the north, and then we will route the new trail between the parking and the sidewalk.
It's what you did on McClelland, right? I own a home over there also. Is that the same deal in front of what's her name, Hip and Humble?
It'll be a little bit different in that was more of a full redesign of the street from edge to edge, and this one's really only a redesign of the south side of the street and just scooching that curb a little bit to the north.
Which is my side of the street. Have you talked to Alan or Mike, Cahoots or Coffee Garden?
No, but we're starting to do outreach specifically to those businesses to get their thoughts and make sure that their input is informing the design as much as possible.
Yeah, I talk to them daily. I think that's very important. I'm not too worried about myself, but yeah, I think those guys would be very concerned. There's a lot of people that hang out down there.
Yeah. And rightly so. It's a fun place, and we want to make sure that it continues to thrive and survive. So,
have you talked to the what's his name, Mark from Dolcetti, about that too?
Have not yet. No. When we do our business to business outreach with Bill and Jason, we'll make sure to hit all of those businesses.
Yeah. That's a big part of it. Yeah, I mean, that's the main concern most people have when they're coming down to 9th and 9th is the parking. Like I said, I don't really deal with it personally, but it sounds like most of the construction's going to be on the south side, basically in front of our stores.
The big changes, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to be keep me involved on that. I want to know what's
that sounds great.
I've been there for 20 years, and so have those guys, and let us be a part of that if you don't mind.
Cool. Thanks so much.
Thanks for the perspective, Braxton, and stay in touch with ELPCO too. We'll be publicizing as much as we can about this project, and you know, we have about 80 emails for the business owners in 9th and 9th, and we're always looking to expand that and make sure we keep up to date. So
cool. Yeah, Braxton's actually my son's name. I don't know
that's what I thought.
but yeah, no, it's Joe the jeweler. Yeah, no, there's a lot of input that I have because we've been there for so long. So keep us in the loop and let us know what's going on. It's always been the best, you know, that what you guys are doing. And we live here on 11th East, right by the Roundabout. So
Oh yeah, cool.
all of it go down all summer. And, cool job, man. What's going on with the art project for the Roundabout?
You know, we can give an update on that just a little bit. I want to make sure we close out this discussion first, though. Is that all right? All right.
Yeah,
any other questions for Tom or Jason?
If I may just jump in real quick, and we'll be at the Coffee Garden this Saturday. We'll have a table set up, you know, so Joe, swing by. We'll also be at the, on Friday, we'll be at Beans and Brews there on 5th East as well, trying to get the message out. So we'll have information, QR codes that you can just use your phone to go straight to the website for additional information. So we're just now, as Tom elaborated, you know, we're just now really kind of kicking off this engagement process. And Tom mentioned that, you know, we have Bill Knowles on the team. He's been utilized, you know, for several projects with the city, and his sole charge is to work with the businesses along the corridor to ensure that they're not just aware of the project, but you know, that we're, you know, addressing as many of those concerns as we can. So you'll definitely be seeing more of the you know, advertising and more of us on the street talking about this project in the coming days. And we've also got about 30 posters right now along the corridor, Coffee Garden being one of them, to advertise the project. And again, those posters kind of introduce the project, and then have the QR code again to let people quickly access a wealth of information that's on the website. So Joe, we'll definitely be in touch with you. Did I freeze up?
I think Joe's muted, but
okay.
All right.
Hang on. What I was saying is there, I know, I don't know if this is part of your project, but any idea what's going on with Google Fiber?
You know, I know they are reaching out into more neighborhoods. I haven't heard as much in the ELPCO neighborhood, but definitely what people are doing is they're posting on social media, hey, what's your experience been like that? And it's been, I've heard good and bad about it in terms of the installation and the follow-up. So I would go to nextdoor.com or Facebook and kind of do a survey there. Or, you know, what we could do is we could do an update at one of our next meetings and kind of get people's read on it. That's a good idea. Maybe bring in some people who've had it done.
Sure, we have it here at the house on 11th East, and I'd like to get it at the shop down there, and I know Alan's expressed interest in that, so I didn't know if that's something that you guys had to, that you're involved with or not, but okay, cool, man. Keep us in the loop. Well, we're happy to help.
Thanks, Joe.
I would like to keep up on what's going on. It's been a part of our family legacy for quite a while, and let us know if you have any questions, and I'll express my concerns. I don't have that much. I appreciate what you guys do, for sure.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
Same.
Okay, you guys, have a great night.
Thanks, you too.
All right, bye now.
All right, well, I have a feeling we'll be talking about this project till my kids are in college, Tom. So,
Jason, the goal is that the 9 line will be a complete trail by the time my daughter can ride a bike.
Okay.
She just turned 1, so you have that as my promise. It won't be forever.
Well, it's nice to get a crystal ball to see what's coming. That's one of the advantages of ELPCO. You see the projects before they're there, and we appreciate you, Tom, and Jason, and Josh, and Bill, and all you guys coming over and giving us this preview. We look forward to hearing more, and we will do our best to publicize it, engage the community, and leverage what we learned from the first part of the reconstruction to help out neighbors and businesses heading west towards Central 9th. So
awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, boys. Have a great night.
All right. I want to do a little bit more of an update before we jump into the election Q&A. We have Jeff Merchant, who's an ELPCO resident and chair of the Utah Democratic Party, to answer any of your questions about that little election going on now. But Joe reminded me about the 9th and 9th, or the 900 South Roundabout art project. That is the public art that's going to go into the roundabout. They're reopening that for another call for artists. I believe that call closes this weekend or soon after, maybe next week. But basically, they have about $115,000 that they're going to be spending on a public art project to go in the center of the roundabout. And the first iteration did not result in the finalists, so this is the second iteration. And I hope many of you were able to fill out that survey where we asked you to provide some input about the 9th and 9th neighborhood to help the artists understand a little bit more. Hopefully this time get a project or some finalists that kind of strike home and everyone can agree on. So that is ongoing. They're about to close the call for artists, and I think we'll get some submissions, and then there'll be some finalists, and we'll probably know in a couple months what that will be. In the meantime, we've got gnomes. So you can enjoy the gnomes that are hanging out at the roundabout. There's even, I think, an underground petition to keep the gnomes. So
someone stole our gnome the other day.
Oh, man, got to put up a wanted poster.
Yeah, exactly.
I also wanted to provide a quick update on the Telegraph Exchange Lofts condo project. That is a development project that is sort of in proposal for 8th East between 9th South and 8th South, sort of right over on a little bit west of 9th and 9th, down the center of 9th and 9th. That has been a project we've been following all year, really going back to January. The City Council could have voted to approve it or not approve it on Tuesday. They heard some public testimony, including from myself from ELPCO, counseling against approving it for a couple of reasons. They also heard some testimony in favor of it. They decided not to vote on the Tuesday meeting. We expect that it will come up again probably in mid-November, maybe a little bit later. We think there's some negotiating or kind of figuring out what's going on. I know many of you on this call have been involved in that. Some of you maybe have been following it from afar. But the reason ELPCO opposes that project is because it would kind of override the zoning, the down zoning that the neighbors pursued just a couple of years ago for one of the parcels. And we feel that, you know, we got to respect what the neighbors put into that neighborhood and making it the way they wanted. And there's a couple of other reasons we oppose it, but that's probably the main one. So I don't want to get into that discussion tonight. We got a couple other topics to cover, but we will be following this issue and keeping you updated in our newsletters and on our Facebook page about that. It's one of the bigger projects to come into 9th and 9th in the past year or two. But next we've got Jeff Merchant up to do a Q&A about the upcoming election. And Jeff, I sent you a couple of the questions that I had come up with earlier, but maybe we should open it up to what people think, and you can go through those questions if no one's got one that's burning up right now. But maybe introduce yourself as well too, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Jeff Merchant. I moved into the community with my wife and 3 children about a year and a half ago. And literally, I think a weekend after we moved in, I was elected chair of the Democratic Party here in the state of Utah. And as a result of that, despite wanting to be involved in this group, I have yet to make one meeting. So by some bizarre happenstance, 12 days before the biggest election, I think, of any of our lifetimes, I happened to have some open time and was able to make it. So I'm really glad to be able to answer any questions anyone has. Like Jason said, he sent me a list of about 8-10 different questions that I'm happy to answer, but any questions anyone has about voting is perfectly fine. I'm really here more as a member of the community than I am as the chair of the Democratic Party. I don't want anybody to think that I'm going to be overly partisan or anything. And if you are a Republican with a question, I am more than happy to answer that as much as if you're a Democrat. So if anyone has any questions, my suggestion is just unmute and ask. And if not, I'm happy to go through this list, Jason, that you provided.
You know, if they're a Republican, you'll tell them the election's on November 4th, right? Though, is that
right?
Any questions for Jeff about the election? You can imagine he follows this pretty closely. Anything? Anybody want to speak up? Well, Jeff, what should happen if you haven't got a ballot yet? What should you be doing?
It's a great question. We're starting to get this question at our office. If you have not gotten your ballot at this point, it is time to call the county clerk and find out where it is. Usually there's going to be one of two reasons why you haven't received your ballot. The first reason is going to be because you have moved and you have not updated your registration. So the county clerk has mailed your ballot to the wrong place, right? If you lived, say, in Sandy and then you moved to Salt Lake, they're not going to forward that mail because you're going to have the wrong ballot anyway, right? You're not voting for people in Sandy. You're now voting for people that are here in Salt Lake. And so you're not going to get that ballot. It won't be forwarded to you. The second reason why you might not get the ballot is because for some reason your ballot has gotten lost in the mail. I don't know about most of the people in the neighborhood. Ballots officially dropped. They were officially mailed out last Tuesday. I received my ballot on Tuesday. So if you didn't get your ballot last week, more than likely, unless you just recently registered, you should probably have your ballot by now. I'm going to go ahead and put in the chat. Actually, I'm going to put a couple of things in the chat really quick. So the number for let's make sure I got all that in there. Hopefully everybody can see that. The number for the county clerk's office is right there. It's that 385 GOT vote number. If you have not received your ballot, I would suggest that you give the county clerk's office a call. All of the elections that you'll be voting on will be administered by the county clerk. So Sherry Swenson's office is the one you're going to want to call, and that's the election office number. If you have moved and you haven't gotten registered, there's a really, really important date that you need to know about, which is tomorrow, October 23rd. You have to be registered within 11 days of the election. And you can do that in one of three ways. You can either go in person and register. You can do it online. And that third link, I guess it's a second link, but the third little item there after the phone number, that is the link that you can use to register online. You do need to have an updated driver's license to do that. Or the third thing that you can do is you can go online and you can register and then mail in your registration. I would not suggest doing that at this point. That second link there or the first link, I guess, will give you all of the information on all three of those options. I would suggest at this point, if you haven't registered, to go ahead and vote in person. In the state of Utah, we have early voting, which happens October 26th through October 30th. You can vote early and you can register when you go to vote. You just have to make sure that you're bringing a valid driver's license with your updated address or information that will show that you actually live at the address that you live at. So if you've moved and you haven't gotten your driver's license updated, take your driver's license, take a utility bill, take something like that. That last link that I've included there gives you all of the different types of ID that you can use and the requirements for that.
Great, thanks for that very complete answer. And the big deadline is tomorrow to register to vote, to be able to get an online ballot or get a ballot through the mail. So
yeah. Otherwise, you do have to do it in person.
What happens, Jeff, if you've lost your ballot? You got a mail-in ballot and it's somewhere on your kitchen table, or your kid spilled orange juice on it? What should you do there?
Yeah, if your ballot gets ruined, if it somehow gets lost, you need to call the county clerk directly. And you need to do that sooner rather than later. In some cases, they are able to provide you with an updated ballot. They should be able to do that. Obviously, where that doesn't work is if you fill out your ballot and you vote for Donald Trump and then you watch him in tonight's debate, which hopefully everyone will watch after this, and somehow you are convinced to vote for the Democrat. If you've already submitted that ballot, you get one shot at it. So you can't ask for a new ballot and re-vote. But if your ballot's destroyed or otherwise lost, give the county clerk a call at that same number. They should be able to help you.
Let's say, Jeff, you've got your ballot and you want to return it, but you're a procrastinator. What's the absolute last day that you can mail back your ballot? And what are the other deadlines you need to know about returning your ballot?
Great question. The answer to that is the very last day that you can mail your ballot in is November 2nd. Has to be postmarked November 2nd. So if you fill your ballot out at 11:45 p.m. and you drop it in the mailbox on Monday, November 2nd, that's not going to count because it's not postmarked. So that's the last day that you can submit your ballot. That's different than the primary, by the way. On the primary, you could vote up to that Tuesday on election day. That's not the case this year. The legislature did not make that change, which I don't understand, but they didn't. So you have until Monday, November 2nd to vote. We have had meetings with the Postal Service. I know there's been a lot of concerns about whether ballots will get submitted in time. The Postal Service has suggested voting and getting your ballot in the mail by 10 days out. So that would be in just a couple of days. So on Saturday, you would want to make sure your ballot is in no later than Saturday to follow the recommendation of the Postal Service. The Utah Democratic Party has suggested that you get your ballot in on October 20th. So you're already a couple of days late by our standards, but that's okay. We still want you to vote. Just get it in as soon as you can. You can also just drop it off in one of the many drop boxes throughout the county.
And I think the closest drop boxes here are at the Salt Lake City Main Library, right across from City Hall. And I believe there's also one over at the Anderson Foothill Library over by Foothill Drive.
Yeah,
so those are two very close ones.
Yeah, and if you've got concerns about that, I don't know if those two are monitored. If you have specific concerns, I mean, look, all of these are pretty big boxes. They're bolted into some pretty decent concrete. I think that if you were to hit it with a truck, it would be hard to damage it. But the one at the county clerk's office, which is also not that far away on 21st South and State Street, is monitored with video monitoring. So if you're extra concerned, you can always go there.
And today I learned those boxes actually have fire suppression systems inside of them. So it's very James Bond.
Yes.
Cool. Here's a question, Jeff. When will we know the results of the election?
It's a great question. It depends on if you are talking about state elections or the federal election. From the federal election standpoint, the way that it's going to work is a lot of states are doing mail-in balloting for the first time. And so a place like Utah is going to get through their results really, really quick. A lot of other states, they do not have this process down, and it could take some time. Really what the key is going to be is how big the margin of victories are in each of the various states, because what they will be able to do is tell how many ballots they have submitted versus how many outstanding ballots they have. What most states will do is they will start to process the ballots immediately upon getting the ballot. So in the state of Utah, you have to sign the back of your envelope, and that signing the back of the envelope is essentially an affidavit saying, this is me, I'm the one that did this, I'm the voter that I claim to be, and you submit that ballot. In Salt Lake County, an electronic system will verify that your ballot matches the ballot that your signature matches the signature that they have on file. If it doesn't, then it's going to be checked by two humans. If it does check it, then you're good to go. The ballot's going to be prepared. Nothing is actually counted until after the election closes. But what they do is they prepare all of the ballots so that, once 8 o'clock comes, they can press a button and all of those ballots are going to get processed. So they'll know really quickly how many outstanding ballots there are as of the end of the night on November 3rd.
Got it. So in Utah, we're going to be a little bit ahead of the game than some of the other states in terms of knowing, first of all, what percentage of ballots we've got counted versus need to be counted, and sort of a system of expecting the results to change over a couple of days, especially in close elections. So.
Right. And, we'll see what happens. I mean, after the 2000 election, Congress really did a lot of changing to how we vote in the United States. Given what's going on with COVID, along with some of the other concerns, I would not be surprised if in 2021, we see a lot of changes and probably even maybe some more standardization of the process nationwide.
Got it. Okay. Let's say you turned in your ballot, Jeff. How can you track your ballot to make sure that it has been counted, that it has been received, I guess would be the way to say it.
Yeah, so let me put 2 more links in the chat. The process is very easy. You can go to the lieutenant governor. So in the state of Utah, the lieutenant governor is the one who manages the final election process and what's called a canvass. They do the final state canvass. So that means the final numbers that come out. That'll happen 3 weeks after election day. He will certify all those numbers. That first link that I put in there, lg.utah.gov, will give you access to anything election related that the state government does. That second link, if you just click on that link, it'll ask you for your address and your name and a couple of other little bits of information. And it will tell you right now whether you have submitted your ballot or not. So I checked it just a few minutes ago to make sure that, that my ballot went through. I got my ballot. I've told everybody to fill the ballot out as soon as they get it. So I felt obligated to do that last Tuesday. I filled it out. I put it in a drop box and I just checked and my ballot has been received. Hasn't been counted yet. It'll be counted, in a couple of Tuesdays.
Got it. And I checked and all 6 of the ballots I turned in for myself were counted too. So I'm really pleased about that.
I didn't hear you say that.
Just kidding. In that website, the Lieutenant Governor's website, an alternative URL is vote.utah.gov. You can do a lot of things at that website, from tracking your ballot to checking your address to registering to vote. So it's a very useful tool. So thanks for telling that. Any questions from the audience? Anything that this conversation has triggered, folks want to talk about or ask? Or Jeff, are there any questions that you want to bring up or things like that to close it out?
I had a question.
Yeah, go ahead. Is this Will?
And that said that her ballot was not counted or was rejected due to a signature not matching, and she only found out about it because she was using the Track My Ballot. If something like that was to happen, are you able to vote in person, or do you need to do any registration to do that?
Yeah, that is a fabulous question. So this is what happens. Like I said, your ballot is, when you sign the back of your envelope, right? That is an affidavit saying that you're the individual who is supposed to be voting. That's your ballot, right? What happens is that's checked electronically. And if the ballot is rejected by the computer, then it goes to a human being. 2 people will look at that and check to make sure that that ballot that signature matches the signature that they have on file. A big question that we often get is, well, what signature is that, right? Well, that signature is the last signature you use when you registered to vote. So let's say that you registered to vote. This literally happened. We got a call this morning about this. Someone registered to vote a couple of years ago. Everything's perfectly fine. And then she got in an accident. And last week she had to have major surgery on her dominant hand. So now, she can try and sign her ballot, but she's signing it with the wrong hand and she's probably not going to have a matching signature. So in that case, when it's not going to match, you can contact the county clerk ahead of time and you can say, hey, this is what the problem is going to be. Please make sure that you're aware of that. And they'll make a notation of that and know that you've submitted your ballot. In a case where it's rejected, the county clerk is required by law to inform you that your ballot has been rejected because of a signature mismatch. Now, there are certain ways that they can do that. A lot of people on the back of their ballot do not fill out their phone number, their email address, any of the supplemental information that they ask. And if you look at that, it just says that we ask for this information, the county clerk won't keep it, but just in case we need to contact you. So the reason why they want that is so that they can contact you in the case that they reject your ballot. In this county of Salt Lake, more likely than not, you're going to end up getting a letter from the county saying that there's been a signature mismatch and that your ballot has not been counted. And then they require you to fill out a secondary affidavit and then submit that secondary affidavit to them so that they know that in fact you did vote. There are a couple of problems with that though. If you wait until Monday, November 2nd to do that, and then it takes them 3 or 4 days to get to your ballot, and then they send you the affidavit, and then you wait a couple of days to fill the affidavit out, and then you mail it back in, you only have 2 weeks from the date of the election to when the county canvass is. So the county canvass, it will end in all the counties in Utah on Tuesday, November 17th. And on that day, the county has to be done. They can't add anything else after that date. They have to submit it to the lieutenant governor, and whatever the count is what the count is. And it's extremely unlikely that even a state court will interfere with that date. In fact, in the state of Utah, as I recall, state courts don't even have authority to change that date. So if you wait to submit your ballot and then there's a signature mismatch and it takes time for you to get that new affidavit in, your ballot may not count. It's one of the reasons why I suggest you get that ballot in as soon as you can, and then you check until you know that your ballot has been accurately counted. But that's the process that you generally will go through. They are required by law to let you know if your ballot is not accepted.
Thank you. Can we vote in person if it is not accepted?
You cannot vote in person. Once you vote by mail, then you're kind of locked in. So because there's an active ballot that's out there, and they're able to track. The way that it works is they track that ballot and they link it to your name up until the point that they start to count the ballot. So you wouldn't be able to go in and then vote in person.
Thank you.
Thanks for tackling that very tricky question, Jeff. That's really interesting that you've got to basically you've got to fix your ballot if you've already mailed it in. And that signature mismatch is definitely a concern on people's minds. So tracking your ballot, making sure that it's received and that it was received in good order is very important. And again, that would be vote.utah.gov is the website to do that at. So any other questions for Jeff Merchant?
I guess, Jason, the one thing that I will also say about curing ballots is that one of the projects that the Utah Democratic Party is involved in, and we've invested about $10,000 in this project, is to make sure everyone's ballot is counted. So we have a process in place that if we believe, it's not really easy, but there are ways for us to be able to tell if someone's ballot has been rejected. We will work to try and help you do that. So if you are someone whose ballot's rejected, you're not sure what that process is, you need any help, all you have to do is give us a call, and we've hired someone specifically for this task. And he's doing work now, but he'll continue to do that work from election day up until the canvasses are done.
Cool, great point. And when they're done curing ballots, we'll cure COVID-19, right? So lots of cures. Well, thank you for diving deep in that complex issue, especially when you get to the nitty gritty. And we appreciate your expertise, Jeff. And of course, we'll be putting this up on YouTube and on Facebook so more folks can get this insight, especially as we're inside 2 weeks from Election Day. Great. Thank you. So we just have a couple more quick items to do for the agenda. And Daryl, if I could ask for your help on this, we're a little bit over time. but we have to do some of the October business of electing board members and then approving bylaws. Maybe we should do the bylaws first. As folks remembered from our September meeting, we have some changes in the bylaws that we're looking at. Let me see if I can do a screen share as well to get that so you can sort of see. The overview is pretty quick. Basically, we're adding it so that we can do online meetings, making the bylaws specifically say that we can meet online. We don't have to meet in person. We're also specifically adding the 9th and 9th business liaison position and the West of East position to the ELPCO board. They have been operating for 2 years or more without being in the bylaws, and very important aspects of ELPCO's business. That would be Nancy Phillip for the 9th and 9th business liaison and Christina Robb as the West of East representative. So we're kind of putting that into the text. We're also adding 2 at-large officers, which if this is approved, we will then kind of have an open call for people who want to be an at-large officer. That means you don't have to represent a neighborhood, but you can still serve on the ELPCO board. There's a couple of people who have expressed interest in that, which we're excited about. And then we also would allow the appointment of non-officer board positions based on special skills and talents, communications, running volunteer operations, things like that. Kind of like our 9th and 9th festival director, but a little bit more ad hoc and based on the needs of the board. So that is what we're doing for that. Any questions about those bylaws? I could actually flash them up on the screen if folks want, or if my description was sufficient, perhaps we can just go straight into the vote. No questions? Thanks for answering that question on the chat, Jeff. All right, well, let's do a vote. Can I see a motion from a board member to approve the bylaws as described?
Motion to approve the bylaws as described by Jason.
Thank you, Jeff. A second? Is that a second, Jeff or Bradley? Great, thank you. All right, so the motion is to approve the bylaws. Basically, everyone give a thumbs up or maybe say something in the chat if you think it's a good idea. All right, we can all do that. And I think we have 13 persons. Actually, Sam Hanson's about to join. Let me admit him. So I just need to see 6 or 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, great. Oh, Michael, thank you for the virtual thumbs up. I didn't know we could do that. That's pretty cool. I got to find out how to do that. Oh, reactions. Yes. All right. Awesome. This is how we do business these days with emojis. Thank you. So the bylaws are approved. Thank you guys for that. We will update those with the city. I can't get rid of my thumbs up. Uh-oh. All right. Well, it'll just stay up. So thank you. We'll also put that up on the Facebook page so folks can see. I want to take a pause to recognize Samuel Hanson joining. Thank you, Samuel. He's the Precinct 5 school board member for Salt Lake City. Christina mentioned that you'd be joining, so thanks for joining us. We're kind of just wrapping up the meeting. We just had an election FAQ. We talked about some 9th and 9th things, and now we're doing the kind of internal business. Why don't we do one fell swoop elections for the board positions. We have the East Emerson position is Jeff Larson. He's up for re-election. East Liberty Park is Andrew Stone, who told me he's not feeling well and he had to step off. And then co-chair number 2 is me, Jason Stevenson, also up for re-election. Although I should pause and mention congratulations to Jeff and his family. I think they just welcomed a new little one into their family. So Jeff, thanks for joining us. I know you'll be up all night, so good luck with that. Can I see a motion to approve those 3 board elections?
So Jason, I would forward the recommendation that all 3, Jeff Larson for East Emerson, Andrew Stone for East Liberty Park, and yourself as ELPCO co-chair, be forwarded for recommendation. Approval.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Brad says he seconds.
Great, multiple seconds. All right, so we'll have another vote, and we can all use that emoji thing if you want to, or a good thumbs up. the whole community gets to vote on this. It's not just board members. It's one of those things that we all can participate in. Great. All right. We are unanimous. That didn't require any signature verification. So we'll trust everyone on that for this election. That's what we were just talking about, Samuel, how to verify your signature on your ballot. So that concludes our official business. Every October we do this after doing the nominations in September. So it's something we don't do all the time, but we do try to get it. And now that we've approved the bylaws, we'll have 2 at-large positions open up on the ELPCO board. So we'll do kind of a call for folks who are interested in that. I know there's several that have expressed interest in that. And that would be, you could join the board even if you, there was someone else living in your neighborhood representing that neighborhood on the board. So a way to kind of expand our representation and to be able to get more folks involved. Any new business or public comments that we can discuss right now? Anybody have an idea? Anything? It was earlier brought up that maybe we could have a discussion about Google Fiber, and sort of as that seems to be moving into our neighborhood, we'll get some perspectives from people who haven't got it or are looking at it, or maybe even the local Google Fiber folks to talk about it. So I've written that down as a future meeting topic. Any others?
I had a question about
give a minute to Sam Hansen tonight, Jason.
I think actually William was going to say something quick too. William, did you want to say that, and then we can go to Samuel?
I just wanted to ask about the 5G towers. I've heard that one was going up at the 9th and 9th near the Roundabout. I was just wondering, as far as Gilmer Park being a historical area, what are the restrictions? Is the city allowed to just, or is Verizon allowed to just install those and overrule that historical district?
Yeah, that's a great question. That just came up this morning. Basically, it's a quick overview. George Norman, who lives on that triangle of land kind of jutting down from Gilmer Park into the Roundabout, he found out, I think just yesterday or the day before, that Verizon is going to put up a 40-foot tall 5G cell tower at that point of the triangle. They've actually started digging. He thought that was his property. Turns out there is a right-of-way, an easement for utilities that's just in that corner, and they're going to put it right there. I've been going back and forth with him today about that and with the city about it. And so the quick answer is that the historical district in Gilmer Park doesn't really deal with that. It deals with your building. It deals with the facade. It deals with windows, doors, things like that. It doesn't actually deal with what's on the ground, especially if it's in a public easement. The reason they couldn't put that tower in the parking strip that's a little bit north of there is apparently it's too close to some of the trees. There has to be a 15-foot buffer around the cell phone tower for trees. So George Norman's probably going to pursue ways to move it, to try to move it off of that triangle and kind of put it in the parking strip. He's talking to the city, he's talking to engineering, talking to Verizon. I've been trying to give him some suggestions on that as well. But yeah, it's something that just kind of came up recently, and you've probably seen those towers up and down 11th East specifically. That's where I've seen a lot of them. It looks like one will go in at the Roundabout. It's just a question of exactly where, whether on that triangle of land or maybe it could be moved to a parking strip.
If we painted a unique color, it can't be considered art if it went in the middle of the Roundabout, could it?
That would be a very generous description of art, I think. It looked like Star Wars droids on poles is one way my kids describe them. But William, does that answer your question? Do you have a follow-up? Do you know George Norman? Have you met him?
No, I don't think we've met in person. I've heard him on the meetings before, but that does answer my question, though.
Let me connect you guys so that you can talk, and Bonnie Wilson as well. I know she's on this call because it is an impact on the Gilmer Park neighborhood, and I know George has already sacrificed a lot for the Roundabout, including some of his trees and property that he maintained for decades. So I think it's something that we do want to pay attention to. And, you know, even if there's no legal or rules reason to move it, maybe there's a nice way that everyone can reach an accommodation.
Definitely. Jason, do you know if there's any other planned towers in our neighborhood? I tried to look on the city's planning website, but I wasn't sure if there's any because it seems like they have them really close together. So we're anticipating probably more that will pop up in Gilmer. So we were just trying to maybe see if we could find out any information.
Yeah, that's a great question. There are places to look that up. I believe it's called, is it Axis or Arxis? There's a city planning website that you go on and can look that up, but it's almost a second language. You have to know how to use it. But I will ask our land use advisors, Judy Short and Dave Richards, who are very skilled at that, to see if they can find out. They're somewhat couched in easements and things like that, so they usually don't require any public approval or any leafleting or anything like that. And my understanding is they have to be within, is it 500 yards or 500 feet of each other to work effectively to create kind of a mesh network. So they do have to be quite a bit closer than other cell phone towers. So if they gave us all free iPhone 12s, it might be worth it, right? But I haven't heard that yet.
So if we're worried about one going up, we just have to plant a tree to minimize a 15-foot barrier so that they can't go up. Is that the solution?
I think we'll if you do a brisk business in saplings right now, you can make some money. Yeah, that's one thing I suggested to George. I said, well, what happens if you plant a tree there? Because his property goes up pretty close to it. So, and in fact, the city cut down one of his trees when they put in the roundabout. It's about 23 feet away from the actual tower. But yeah, that could be a solution. We could all become arborists. Cool. Samuel, do you want to give us an update on what's been going on with the Salt Lake City School Board, with the school district, and COVID-19, things like that?
Sure. Well, I think you probably all know that we started remote, except for very small groups of, they used to be called English language learners, and now they're called multilingual learners and special ed students. We're going to revisit that decision probably on the 3rd of November. And then between now and then we have an extra study session on the 27th of October that's going to be a meeting with Dr. Hirsch, who's, I've forgotten his first name, but he runs something called the HERO Project, which is a collaboration between the governor's office and the university. And basically it's a small mobile testing outfit that has been operating in a few different school districts across the county. So we're going to talk to them about ways that we could collaborate either now or later if we do reach our criteria for some kind of hybrid model, which again, currently our criteria is 5% case positivity on a rolling 7-day average and 10 or fewer cases per 100,000, which, as I'm sure you all know, we're well away from meeting that benchmark, unfortunately, right now. But we're going to talk to them and also talk to some epidemiologists from Duke University. I don't know exactly what the superintendent has planned, but I think he just wants us to kind of keep abreast of the best and latest science to inform our decision making. So that will be at 5:30 on Tuesday, the 27th, and then our next full meeting will be November 3rd. And I can answer any other questions you might have. I appreciate you.
Any questions for Sam? Yeah, no, thanks for that update.
And we will continue to try to get people to wear masks and socially distance at our football games. It's a challenge, but we're gonna work with the city and just try to make sure that we're diligent about that, because it has been a bit of a problem.
Sorry about the interruption. I'm parenting by screen tonight. My wife is on duty, so apparently the movie ended. But in my recollection, Samuel, was that the positive test rate in Utah is now 15% today. So 5% is definitely a 5-day, a 7-day average for that is kind of got to do a lot of work to get there. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Any other questions for Sam? Okay, well, thank you for coming by. I appreciate it. I know you had school community council meetings tonight that you were attending, so
Thanks for having me.
Presence. With that update, I think we are almost done. Daryl, did you have another update or a comment?
So in this time of political division, I think we are all here, to use a line from what I'm going to reference tonight, we're all here to fix things. And this is a wonderful community. If you haven't seen the political ad carried by KSL, do a Google search for Gerald Daugherty, who is running for a commissioner in Travis County, Texas. And I loved his wife, who said he's just trying to fix things. Worthwhile and a good positive message, and we're grateful for all of you and trying to make this a better community. The information about election was really worthwhile tonight, so thank you for all of you.
Thank you, Daryl. Well, with that, I think we can stand adjourned, and I will say that for future meetings, we will look at Google Fiber, and we will also take a look at where those 5G cell towers are, so that maybe there's a way you can find out when one of them might be creeping up on you, so you can grab a tree and protect yourself from it.